All right. Hey, Tammy. Good to see you. We'll have a few people joining us still. I think we're going to have maybe 7 popping on. So anyway, the title of this teaching is Complicated Cases. I'm going to go through some other things too for this next hour and 15 minutes. But I really want to kind of go through a couple complicated cases with you guys, and feel free to ask any different questions. So if you want to mute yourself, then we can have everything. There you go. Okay, so first, before we go through, I want to talk about, I actually spent this past month quite a few hours putting the chronic case list on my website. So if anybody hasn't seen that, it's on my website now. It's Homeopathic Services Longview.wordpress.com. And then just look for the chronic cases section. Chronic remedies, top chronic remedies. And so that list is pretty much everything you're going to need for, let's see, you have an eczema case. Well, I put your top ones in my opinion for eczema. So you're going to see your metarhinum, your sulfur, graphites, mesoreum, all of those in there. And then I put them in order from most important to least. So you can go through and see, okay, metarhinum, I'm always going to test people on when they have eczema. The last couple, I might not, unless it's like, that's their only complaint. But if you have a lot of people that have like 5 or 6 different complaints, I might only use the top 2 remedies from those lists. So also I have like your allergies, your depression, I have anger, I have irritability and stress. So definitely everybody go and check out that if you haven't already. So I'm not going to be spending so much time as giving you the remedies now because they're all there. You can reference that as you need to. And if you have trouble with the website, there's something about the cookies that I've seen people will be like, I can't see it. It'll say, oops, website not available. Just adjust in the bottom, you'll see accept cookies, and then it should be available. So I want to go through kind of just a sequence for when you have a new client. This is what I go through every time I have a new client coming in. First of all, they always want to know if they need to send me medical records or something. That's not necessary. I just send them my website. So it's usually like 5 weeks in advance that they'll actually get their appointment date. So I send them my website. My website has what to know before the appointment. You can look at all that. So they kind of know I'm going to be doing muscle testing. They know about antidotes. They know about some of the radiation stuff I've talked about. They know what homeopathy is for those newbies. They kind of already got that introduction, so I don't have to spend that time with them as much, even though you still end up doing it in the office. And I always make sure they know it's a home office, because some people think I'm at like a doctor's clinic or something. So they don't have any surprises when they come. And then I also let them know like all the medicine is included, because some people also think like, oh, I'm going to get there and then she's going to try to make me buy more stuff. So I always make sure they know that this is the price and that's what it's going to be. Once they get to the office, I will ask usually if they had a referral. I'll be like, oh, who did you get referred by? Or usually they always do. There's hardly anybody that just happens to find me, and we kind of talk about that and how much they know about homeopathy. And then I try to give them a quick explanation. I usually will tell people that, it's frequency medicine. Now I say right away, this is not like new agey and crazy. This is, scientifically proven. I go through how it's very, like in Europe, it's very common. When we were in there, it was covered under insurance and everything. So the UK, they have homeopathic hospitals. Just try to really give homeopathy validity, because people most of the time, they don't know what it is coming into your office. You can even tell them different studies have been done, and even like Albert Einstein predicted that frequency medicine would be the medicine of the future because it's safe and effective to the body. That there's even homeopathic remedies at Walmart and Target, and it's really getting more widespread now. So after I kind of give them a quick intro, then I say, okay, so now it's your turn. tell me what's going on with you. And so, then I really take notes on only important details and try to help them focus, because especially some of the older clients might try to tell you all about this event that they had, and I don't really need to know about all that. I need to know just, okay, you had your hysterectomy. I don't need to know like everything about it. Just you say, okay, well then, anything else? And always asking anything else, until they've kind of given you everything. And really what to keep in mind as you're listening to them give their case to you is, what are the major offenders to their illness? Marissa, if you want to mute yourself. Good to see you.
Hi, yeah, thank you.
So what are the major offenders to their illness? And so sometimes while I'm taking notes, I'll also write in the margins sometimes my observations. So if they just talk a lot and they never stop talking, I'll write a little quote, little parentheses, my observation, loquacity, which in homeopathic terms is talks a lot. So I make sure not to mention that when I read through their notes again the next month. And just keep in mind, all the notes that you're taking is pretty much what you're going to read back to them next month. So you have to think, okay, this is stuff that they're experiencing right now. This is their picture, physical and mental, right now. I also then, once I kind of get the major, things are going, their symptoms, at the top, I do their detox remedies. So I ask about, vaccines, and a lot of times it's just vaccines in adulthood. So if they had their normal childhood, then I say, okay, did you get like 10 years of flu shots or the HPV shot? I always want to know about, because that's a real bad offender, especially for young girls. It seems I've had a lot of like endometriosis cases related to HPV shot. If they had other shots, that if they've had a bad reaction to them, I want to know about that. So if they were like, oh, everything was going fine until I got this shot, well, then I need to know that. Let's see, then you look at antibiotics, and I'll say, some people are like, yeah, I've had antibiotics. Okay, well, what about in your childhood? Did you have a lot of ear infections? Did you have a lot of, chest infections? I want to know like long-term exposure. I don't want to know if you had 6 or 7 antibiotics in your whole lifetime. That doesn't matter to me. Or if you had steroids a lot as a kid, let's say you're on inhaler for 6 years, or you had steroid creams because you had eczema. I want to know about those things. People who had contraceptives for a long time, want to know about that. Women who've had labor medications, so not really the epidural as much as Pitocin, because I've seen people who had Pitocin and their hormones are kind of messed up from it. So you want to know about those things. And other things you might want to write on the top margin is radiation. So some people, like I have had women who work in radiology, they're taking x-rays all day long. Well, that's their first visit is going to be x-ray remedy, uranium remedy. We're going to do big, deep, radiation type detoxes for that first month. Just to get, and sometimes you need to do that just to get the remedies working. So if you take a case and they have a ton of radiation in their body, and then you just go ahead and give them remedies, they may not work at all. You need to do, that's why I always give uranium, nitricum, 30C on the first visit, the first remedy I give everybody, because everybody needs it nowadays. So then after I've taken all that information, I go to synthesis if I need to. I don't always do that, but it's an app called Synthesis English, $9,900. It's amazing. I try to mix physical and mental rubrics. I usually end up maybe using like 4 to 5 rubrics. So that might look like eczema on the back of the knees for a physical one. And then it might look like, stomach pain in the evening for another physical one. I make sure when I pick those rubrics, I pick ones that have a good amount of remedies in it. So you don't want more, you want the sweet spot is between 20 and 100 remedies. So if you have something with just 2 remedies, I would skip it. Go and find a rubric that has between 20 and 100. And maybe like your mental symptoms might be, and it has to be significant. So it can't just be like, oh, they're stressed. Well, a lot of people are stressed. It has to be like, oh, this person has nightmares every night. Okay, well, I'm going to put that in there. Or this person wants to kill themselves or something very often, you know, or had suicidal thoughts. Well, I'm going to be putting that in there, that's for sure. So you're going to kind of make that mixture, and then usually whatever comes up on my clipboard, when you compare them, I try to just choose like maybe 3 to 6 from that list. Okay, and then once I've gotten that list, I kind of put it on my paper program. I'll write that there. I'll just pull in other remedies from my basket for detoxing and things like that. So if I knew that they had antibiotics for a year, I'm going to pull polyantibiotics. If it was like, yeah, other things like vaccines, I knew that maybe they were, they had the tetanus shot, and then all of a sudden their leg hurt for like a year. I'm going to pull the tetanus shot, you know, remedy. Let's see, then I muscle test with the most important remedies first. I give and retest. Now, if they test for a lot, so let's say you got a person with a lot of problems and they're testing for like 20 remedies or 15, they like seem to need everything. Then test them again. So go through, let's say they test for 12 remedies or something. Then you give those same 12 to their body again. And guess what? They'll need less the next time around. So just test them on all those remedies again and try to pick then maybe one that's the most important. Give that first and then test again. So, you know, feel free. Muscle testing is kind of like you're giving the body, you know, exposure to the frequency, you know, the remedy, to choose what it needs the most. So when they're presenting it to the body, do you need this one? Do you need this one? Then you give them again. Okay, are you sure? Which one do you need more? This one or that one? And the body will start to kind of choose and narrow it down. Let's see. Oh yeah, your first, and then your whatever remedy they test for the potency. So a lot of times, you know, I do like this. These are the remedies I test for: 30C, 1M. I don't usually test for 200C very often. 10M. Then I'll test for an LM80. So I kind of bounce around between the C's and the LMs. Some people don't like it that way. I don't know. That just happens to be what I have. LM80, then LM200, and an LM1000. That's as high as my machine can go. Now, if you don't have that high, then work with what you have. But those are the ones I'll test on. And a lot of times I'll kind of test for potency on my best guess. So if I think this person has a lot of problems, they're probably going to need like a low one, then I'll start there. So if I think it's probably going to be a 30C, I'll test the 30C first. And if I test a 1M and they don't want it, then I don't test the rest. I just give them that 30C. Then I start once I have all the remedies, I usually give about 3 to 5 per visit. So it's kind of like we're saying, okay, we're going to focus on these 3 to 5 remedies this whole 5 weeks. Your body's going to have these 3 to 5 tasks that we're going to work on. And so then what I'll do is I usually, let's say it's like, now I don't always put like, if it's 5 or even sometimes 6, I usually will kind of give like, especially if the person has a lot of problems, I might just give 3, like I'll line them up on my table. I'll do 3 remedies and then I'll do the next 2 to 3 remedies lined up. And so that first row, I know I'm gonna repeat whatever I gave them in office that day. So let's say they test for sepia and natrimer and a vaccine detox, and then a few other ones. I'm just gonna stick to those 3. That first, so for their first baggie that I say dose number 1 day, or 8 days from that day, I'll put the date on it. Then I'll put those 3 remedies in there. I'll bag them up, put it in there, seal it up. And the baggies I use, my clients know it, but those of you who don't know it, I get these from Walgreens. They're like these little equate. And the nice thing is you can write the date on there, and you know, you don't need any kind of stickers or anything. They're already all set. They're like $1.50 or something. So I write that. So pretty much what you're doing is the dose that they get in office, you're repeating again the next week. Then on the third week, or the last dose, you're kind of introducing a higher potency or different remedies. Now use that to kind of your discretion. If you're like, well, I tested for so many remedies, then just, you don't need to go up in potency every time. If they tested for 6 remedies, then do 3 remedies one week and 3 on the next, and kind of then the same 3 again. So you're kind of working those 6 into the whole month, just maybe not every single week the same thing. You're kind of switching it. Now, if they only tested for 3, I'm going to try and go up with them. So on week 3, I would go up. So if they started at a 30C, I'm going to move them up to a 1M. If they started at a 10M, I'm going to move them up to an LM80, which would be like an MM. That usually seems to be the sequence that people's bodies are allowed to, that they heal at that speed. Now, if it's somebody that's really weak, you can see, like, I don't always go up, because it's kind of like their body. I don't know. I don't want to miss it, because sometimes if you go up and that person isn't ready, it won't do anything for them. Do you have a question, Jay?
Yeah, you said 30C, and if you were at 30C, you go to a 1M, or was that 10M?
1M.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. So sometimes I don't, if that person's really kind of weak, I don't always go up with them. And that's just at your own discretion. Now, if it's a kid and they're reasonably healthy and they're not sick all the time, and I'm going to go up for sure, because I want to just get them done and work through those remedies as quickly as possible. Then after we've got everything bagged up and explained how everything works, I tell them too, with the bags, don't put them by devices. So don't take your envelope of baggies and stick them by where you charge your phones. Put them somewhere else. I talk about antidotes with them. So some homeopaths don't follow it. I do mint, eucalyptus, tea tree oil, menthol, and EMF radiation. EMF is probably the hardest conversation to have with a lot of people. So I keep options available for them in my office. I have the stickers that you can get them on Amazon. They're just hematite EMF stickers. You can put them on phones, put them on iPads, put them on whatever they need that they're around. I have bracelets in the office, which are hematite bracelets for people who like work in tech, you know, and they can't escape. It's all around them. They wear those. And then I have the toothpaste, which is Bilka. It's a homeopathic toothpaste. Then they have them pay. I use, you know, Venmo, PayPal, and check and cash. Schedule their next appointment. Next appointment is usually 5 weeks out. Yeah, Jay.
You went really quick. So you said something about a homeopathic toothpaste that I don't know anything about. And the other thing is, I missed what you said. What kind of bracelet?
Okay, hematite. Can you grab me?
Hematite.
Yeah, you can find those on Amazon too. They're pretty cheap.
Okay. And then,
yeah.
What was the brand of homeopathy?
So here's the it's called Bilka.
Okay.
This one has a sticker on it. I'll see here. You can see the name of it.
Yes. Okay.
Bilka Homeopathy. This one tastes like mint. So a lot of people like that one.
Okay.
And I don't try to make money off of those. I just try to have them there to make sure especially new clients, don't feel overwhelmed. Like, let's say they have a 4 o'clock appointment with me and they got some church later. They don't want to have to go to the store, find some kind of toothpaste. They don't know if they're going to like it. I'm like, here's one you're going to like. There you go. It's about the same price you're going to pay when you go to the store and get one anyways.
Okay.
Katie, where do you find it? Do you just order it online, the toothpaste?
You can get them on Amazon or eBay has some good prices.
Oh, okay.
Now, keep in mind, they take 3 weeks to get in. For some, they're coming from Bulgaria, I think they're made.
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah. So whenever I get a shipment in, I order the next one right away because I know every 3 weeks I'm gonna need like 10 toothpastes.
Are there different flavors? Are there ones you recommend or, that are better
Yeah,
than
this
others?
one, the Chios Mastaha is the mint-like one. That's
Mhm.
that seems to be the favorite. Lemon is another one, and then grapefruit is pretty good, which is kind of a tangier orange. And then there's another one called ginger lime, which is really good too. Okay, so then once I've done, paid, scheduling the next appointment, and I'll tell them too, because a lot of people will say to me, well, why did we schedule it 5 weeks out? You only gave me remedies for the first 3 weeks. And I'll say why I do that is because once that 3rd week is over, so you've had 4 weeks of them working on those remedies, I want to see what happens in that last week. So I leave a week with nothing in the body so that I can see where the body goes next. Because if I would have brought them in on that 4-week mark, a lot of times people be like, they'd probably be like, oh, I feel fine, everything's fine. And everybody would tell me, oh, this last week, everything was going so good until this last week. So that's how I kind of feel like that 5-week time frame is ideal, because I want to see what is still there to work on. We might have fixed your eczema, got better. We might have fixed your depression, but now all of a sudden they have anxiety, or now the depression was better and it came back even worse than ever. And I try to really remind people, like when things get worse, so let's say they think, well, the eczema was gone, it came back and is even worse. If you're detoxing, you're kind of making available those white blood cells, because what's happening is you had these white blood cells kind of carrying, going around with aluminum or mercury or whatever. And all of a sudden you're getting that mercury and aluminum and formaldehyde out of the body. Those white blood cells are freed up to do more work. You have more soldiers in the game. So you have to just keep pulling people back into the process, because they won't understand it. They're going to think, yeah, something's wrong here, instead of something's actually really right. So always keep kind of pulling them into that. Okay, any questions so far? So that's pretty much how I take new clients.
I have a question, Katie.
Yeah.
Do you have, I know when we've been to you, you don't have an intake form. I mean, like I've used like a waiver kind of a sort of thing to protect myself. Do you feel the need for anything like that?
I do have a waiver. Yeah.
You
And I
do?
can send it to you if you want, or you can get a copy. But it just pretty much, I just made it up for my own protection, waiver and release of liability.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that. Okay.
I don't think I had you sign one because I didn't worry about you.
You knew me. You knew I was weird
I knew
too.
you knew, so I was like, oh, she's not gonna sue me.
Okay.
Could you send that in an email just so I could use it as a reference?
Yeah, I'll send it to you guys. So only, like I had a lady come in a couple weeks ago and she just seemed a little bit uptight and I didn't know her very well. She only had one referral, which I didn't know that. And I was like, can you sign this? And she was fine with it, but I just felt safer. I felt protected having done that. Anybody else have any questions before I move on? Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple cases with you guys of more complicated cases. So the first one's name is Kimberly. We're not going to do last names, but just first names. She came in, I think 3 years ago, and she just had so many different things going on. I remember, and she was really kind of nervous about trying homeopathy and afraid it was like new age and things like that. So I was really careful and trying to legitimize it for her. But she had constipation, she had migraine, she had shingles. The shingles were reoccurring for, I think since she was 15 years old. So, and she came in like 40 years old. So she had this reoccurring shingles. She was, sensitive to different chemicals and sugar. She had a lot of trauma in her life. abuse, feels guilty that everything is her fault, because it always was. She said her cycle was really achy, and breasts were tender, and ovaries, she had cysts on her ovaries that would pop sometimes, and scar tissue inside of her. And so, when you have a case like this, and she was on 2 or 3 different medications and depression, and so you kind of wonder to yourself, okay, where do I start, with somebody like this? Now, I didn't have emotion code back then, but she does it now with me, and it's really helpful because of all the trauma she's been through. But so I kind of looked at her case, and I'm like, okay, what's the most significant thing I want to work on? Well, the shingles, having been for 25 years, was pretty significant. So what I did is I looked up on Dr. Homeo, and feel free to use these resources. I think they're great. Dr. Homeo is a great source. I also sometimes use Joette Calabrese. And then Homeopathy Center is another good one. And then your Banerjee protocols. So there's a book that you can get on Amazon called Banerjee Protocols, which they know a lot of the top remedies. And then of course my synthesis. So those are like the resources I don't always consult every single one of those, but if needed. So I had no experience with shingles at that time. So I think I looked up on Dr. Homeo shingles, and I wrote down here all these like top 8 remedies for shingles. And then I just kind of knew she seemed really fearful. And she said also she really feared cancer. And so fear of cancer is carcinosinum. So I threw that one in there. I threw in there pulsatilla, because she's she seemed very forsaken. Everything was her fault, and nobody loves her, and just these different, issues. And then she had these cysts on the ovaries. So I thought of carcinosinum too, because carcinosinum is all about overgrowth in the body. So the first remedy I gave her was uranium, and then she did test for carcinosinum. And she said to me, what's this remedy made of? And I said, a cancer cell. To somebody who's brand new to homeopathy, she actually started breaking. She cried for like 5-10 minutes in my office. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm sorry. And I tried to keep explaining to her, this is not really, it's just the frequency of a cancer cell. It just helps kind of repair some of the most, sick places in your body, trying to do like the reverse of what it actually is from. And so finally we kind of pulled her out of that. And then she also tested for, and she tested really high, like an LM80 or an MM potency for that. And then gave her contraceptives. So, because she had birth control for 5 years. So, and I thought, okay, all these different, and she had her tubes tied. And she had PCOS. So yeah, the ovary cysts. And I marked here that she had, and nothing I really starred. So like you'll see in the top margin, I didn't really star a whole lot of it. So once I star it, it's kind of like, oh, that's a major issue. Definitely check for that every appointment. So I didn't really do that with her. So I just kind of threw in some different things. And this was 3 years ago. I wouldn't necessarily do it like that now either. So I'm like, oh, why didn't I test that? I should have. So then she had a really severe reaction. So we only gave her those 3 at the time. And I just remember her texting me and being like, I'm just, so just scared and anxious and headaches and just tired. And usually it's not that bad, but you kind of have to talk people through and just, hang in there. It shouldn't last. I'll tell people it shouldn't last more than 1 to 3 days. So if they know how long it will take, they will hang in there during that time. And I tell people, put heat on anything that hurts, drink lots of water, lots of healthy food, and just rest. Your body is trying to shut you down to heal you. So just remind them of that. So she came in the next month, And she did actually feel a lot better. You know, some of her anxiety was better. The shingles happened to come back during the middle of the month, and got really bad, and then kind of got a little bit better. The shingles took, I think, 6 months of us working on them, like going away, coming back, going away, coming, until they finally left. So now I've been working with her for 3 years. I still see her once a month, once every 5 weeks, and they've been gone now for a long time. So then the next appointment, you can kind of see, I'm going to show you my book here, what it looks like. And this is just loose paper, really. I mean, I just put it with a paper clip, and I put it in a, filing cabinet. So nothing special. So the next month, I just take, this was her next appointment. So you see how short it was. So I don't need you don't need to spend hours with people. Yep. So you see, it was really like 6 months. So then I just look at each appointment as kind of like, where is she at now? So I keep in mind the stuff she's had to work on, but I write what symptoms that she had. She had more skin tags coming out. Now with people with that, I will see that when people are detoxing, they will get more skin tags sometimes. And to me, it just seems like, I don't know, the body's detoxing is pushing things out into safer places. The skin is usually safe. So you'll see skin eruptions, you'll see rashes, skin tags coming out. She had really bad neck pain for 2 to 3 days. No, yeah, skin tags. Rebecca asked, how long will they get skin? It won't usually go away. So sometimes people can get them removed because it's kind of like the body was just pushing something out and it's just keeping it there outside the skin to keep it safe from your stomach or liver or whatever. So sometimes people get them removed. So then she had like a fever in the evenings when her feet and hands were swollen, and psoriasis started popping out from when she was younger, and some hemorrhoids. So for me, like this all, so a lot of the stuff from the first, the first appointment had gotten better. So you see a lot of these different things here that we're talking about are kind of new things. So it's like the body has just moved to a new area. So I'll tell people, like, imagine you have this house that's a mess. The body will, once it's done cleaning one room, it will move into another one. So I had a client recently that she had this like nose polyp, sinus polyp that she had been dealing with for a year. And that's all we dealt with for like 4 or 5 months during that year, till finally I was like, this is not working. Something's not working here. I think you should go get this polyp surgically removed. I've tried everything I have for you. So she went and saved up for the surgery, had the surgery, and now she came in today, and all of a sudden she's having huge mood swings and like hormonal stuff going on, and like all this pelvic pain, and she came in just really distraught, like, what is going on? All of a sudden I was doing, like, before all this nose stuff came up, I was doing really well. And I was like, because your body's moving to another room. It finished with this room. Now we're in thyroid room, adrenal room. We're on all this other stress to the nervous system that she's gone through because she hasn't slept well for years before that. So for me, I was like, good, we're moving on. Finally, we can get off of this sinus stuff. And then we just deal with that picture that she's showing that day. So that's what we did with her. And so I kind of balanced, because she did have these like, pulled muscle in her neck. It's a balance. When you have people come in with acute and chronic stuff going on at the same time, you can't necessarily choose one over the other. You kind of have to try and deal with both because they're both important to them. So you just deal with as much as you can. So I knew, okay, the neck pain, pulled muscle, I'll just throw in like 2 or 3 remedies for that. So I threw in my arnica, bryonia, I think, and ruta. And so I threw that in her box, or in the, basket. And then I dealt with some of these, psoriasis. So I brought in some of my detox and my metarhinum and all those remedies. She was having hemorrhoids, so I looked up a few things for hemorrhoids. So I'm just kind of throwing a mixture of things so that I'm covering all the symptoms with maybe 10 to 12 remedies. And so then I ended up giving her 6 that time. So we did carcinosinum again, higher. We did natramur, which is suppressed emotions. I knew that sounded about right since she's gone through so much abuse. She ended up testing for bryonia and arnica. So sometimes when you have that mixture, I'll ask people if they want to do an extra dose for that pain. So the next day, so instead of doing like a dose that was going to be 8 days apart for arnica and bryonia, which is for her neck pain, I said, I'd love to do a dose for you tomorrow for this neck pain to make sure we finish it out. And then give her the other 2 remedies for her chronic stuff for later. So people will, and usually I'll do an extra dose for $10, which includes all their remedies that they need. So what I did do for her was I took bryonia and arnica aside, put them in a baggie for the next day, and then I put them away and put her other remedies. And I don't always do uranium a whole lot. I might sometimes just do it in the first appointment, and then I don't use it for the next week and the following week. I just do it on the very appointment visit in office. So yeah, and then I also did a detox of polymetals, came up in a 30C, aconite for trauma, because she'd just been through so much trauma. So I kind of knew that whatever she tested for was covering everything in some way. And so then she came in the next visit, and you can see the next visit is also pretty short. So we're right here now. The size of it is also just very short and sweet. So then she had a bad like spider bite, and she also, the hemorrhoids were still there. And the constipation that had gotten better, got worse again. The shingles also came back pretty bad, and feels cold and hungry all the time. So those are her main complaints. So then I tested her on, and what I'll do is I'll test them on the same remedies that they had the last month. So I'm always going to be testing her on carcinosinum, and to this day, she'll still need carcinosinum once in a while. It just is her major constitutional remedy. So I know she tested for that. She went up even higher that next month in a 10 mm. I didn't have the LMs back then, so that was even higher. We did lycopodium because I knew that that covered the constipation. And when you feel hungry all the time, that always kind of signals to me that the body is not absorbing what it's taking in, or you have like a hormonal imbalance too. But since she was constipated, I'm thinking, okay, she probably has a really sluggish gut. So I look at, gut remedies for that. And usually that will solve it with people. If they are just hungry all the time, always look at gut remedies for that. So she tested for lycopodium 200C. That was the first time she had that. Thuja, which is kind of your vaccine detox. We put that in there. I think I put that in there for the hemorrhoids, because it's like once it was around for 2 months in a row, I knew that, and it hadn't changed. Then I knew, okay, second visit, we're not seeing a change in this. I got to do a little bit more research on it. So I think I looked up on Dr. Homeo, and I threw some Thuja in there and thought maybe that would solve it, and it did come up. Polymetals, because the shingles, I'm always thinking, I think it happened after like a hepatitis shot. So I thought I'm going to keep just pulling the metals out, and that should improve, and the gut should improve. We did labor medication because I think she did have Pitocin, and I thought also feels cold and hungry. I think of hormones, so I put that in there, and then bowel nosode 30C, just to keep rebuilding, keep the gut going. So then she came in the next 5 weeks, and we still had the shingles. So just don't get discouraged though when people are having the same symptoms every month. Always be telling them, especially skin stuff. Tell them, did it move? Did it change? Did it get worse? Did it get better? If you don't see any change, that's when I start to be like, maybe something's not right. But if they were like, oh yeah, it got really bad, I'm like, then we're probably on the right track. We just have a lot more to do. So, and if it moved up the body, so usually you'll see skin symptoms, like if people had eczema on their ankles, over the next few months, it will probably move up to knees or thighs or buttocks or abdomen. You'll see them moving upwards on the body. It kind of goes through twice. So it's like 2 waves, I'll tell people. So it'll go through all the way once and people think it's gone. And I'm like, well, hold on, it might come back, you know, goes up, then it kind of goes down to up again. And that's usually when we're done completely with skin stuff. So yeah, she comes in the next month and shingles again. She had a shocking feeling in her belly button, ripping sensation in the abdomen, which to me, when I hear that, I'm like, I don't really know what that is, you know. So sometimes they're going to give you these symptoms and you're like, I don't know, we're going to gut remedies. We're just going to throw that in there. Constipation was still there, but it had, I know she said it had gotten better and kind of come back. Hemorrhoids were still there. And now she's feeling crazy and guilty about everything. Fear of people not liking me. She felt really heavy, like she had gained weight. Now, when you're working on hormones and detoxing with people, they will probably gain 10 pounds. Now, not everybody, but people sometimes will. And I just prepare them for when I hear that, they're like, I can't lose weight. I don't know why. That's normal because the body uses inflammation to heal. So, you know, to heal the gut needs to get a little swollen. They're going to feel bloated. If all of a sudden we're trying to heal your, you know, with sepia and things like that with different or thyroid remedies, the thyroid will slow down. The adrenals will slow down while they're trying to heal. The same way when you're doing demo on a house that needs construction, the function of your house will slow down. You're not going to be able to make dinner as easily when your kitchen island is tore up, you know. So just remind people of that those are all good signs. And then what happens is when you're done with treatment, then that weight most likely will come off and then some. So I've seen people that have, I really believe that's how I was able to lose weight so well. This past year and a half, I lost 85 pounds because I've done all that work already with hormones and gut and detoxing. So my body was ready to just let it go. Then she had, let's see, just really paranoid, Kim said, beating herself up. She started having anxiety attacks and losing her hair. So you see, we have still sprinkled in here some of the same symptoms, but now we're getting more symptoms. And I just attribute that the past 2 months prior, we detoxed a bunch of metals. So for me, I'm seeing this as like a whole picture, not just like, oh shoot, she's got so many problems now. What am I doing wrong? Look at it as the body's fighting harder. The body's pushing harder. It's healing more. It's healing deeper. I knew she was going to have anxiety attacks eventually. I mean, the woman had went through a ton of abuse as a child. The body wants to get that trauma out. So now it's able to dig there. And so, you know, just always keep kind of pulling them back in with this, you know, you're on the right track. This is all good. You know, we keep dealing with it. I think that's when we started doing pulsatilla, finally tested for her. Now I have tested pulsatilla on her since for that past 3 months, because I thought, oh, she for sure needs it. She didn't need it until that point. And when she wanted it high. She had pulsatilla in the highest potency I have. Because and then all of a sudden her potency started going way up because her abilities over the body to heal started getting stronger. So she needed carcinosinum again. In the highest potency. Now we're finally there. She needed metarhinum in the highest potency, which I knew metarhinum is gut and skin stuff. So I knew like the shingles and this ripping sensation and constipation would be covered. And then hemorrhoids is always related to people having gut issues. So if people are pushing their bowel movements out, they're creating those hemorrhoids most of the time. So if you can fix the gut, the hemorrhoids will eventually, hopefully, go away. Nature myrrh, finally we did that with her, which that ended up being a big one. That suppressed emotion. And then heavy metals again. So you can see we already did for 3 months in a row, we're doing heavy metals, just going up higher and higher with her. Now the rest of her file is 3 years long. And so I'm not going to go through it all with you, but I just wanted to give you a little picture of how treatment started and how it kind of continued. I never felt like she really ever gave up on me. There was always this like, she knew the process. Now, when you have people that are there with you and they get it, They see the long-term picture of this. This is not an easy fix all the time. This is going to take years, and I always try to give them that outlook. Like this, I told her in the beginning, this is going to take at least a year. Now it's taken 3 and she's still there with me. She's still fine because she's seen what it has done. She's seen how far she comes, and sometimes people will forget. So remind them every visit when they come in, and they come in and say they have all these problems. You just go through what they had last month. And then, oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I actually did feel hungry all the time, and now I don't. Or I did really feel paranoid and having anxiety attacks, and now I don't. So remind them of the progress, because they won't see it 5 weeks later all the time. And then, yeah, so now it's been 3 years. Let me look at what we're working on now. She still has some ovary pain once in a while. And she's going through a lot of trauma with her husband. So we're working on her husband, which is kind of irritating, causing stress to her, because we got to pull out his trauma. At the same time, it's like, you know, hard for her to deal with him being more angry and more irritated when they're already having problems. Now she's having this strange, like both hands don't have good grip, like she can't grab things, which I think was an injury because she was doing some yard work. So you're always looking for like the why. You're kind of playing a detective. Why do they have these problems? Okay, she can't grab things. Were you doing something with your hands? Does she have, oh, she always has neck, she's always had neck problems too. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe the neck is out causing, you know, the circulation in the hands to be bad, and her hands are always falling asleep. So then also you can recommend like a chiropractor. Let's do a motion code and try to pull out body walls that might be in the neck to get everything flowing again. She was having a nervous stomach, which is her husband and her were fighting all the time. Mind was racing, stress, can't sleep. So it's all very situational. Feels very mad. So you can see like there's none of the initial stuff there anymore. This is 3 years later. She's just gone through a really rough month with her husband, her kids. So I pull out my stress remedies like your Caliphos, your Nux Vomica, Natrimer. Oh, and she felt super angry. I remember that she came in just like fuming, and I've never seen her like that. And so I thought of immediately like anacardium. So now there's also, here's an important thing for me to tell you. There's 5 mania remedies. These are important for you to write down, because I think these are things I think about all the time. So the body releases trauma through these, what we call mania remedies, and Willa taught me about these from my school. So like you have people who go through trauma, the brain has to kind of like let off steam, you know? So anacardium is letting off steam with anger. So you have these moments of just rage. And I could see that it was connected to the trauma she was going through with her husband, was making her just fuming rage. And I've never seen her like that. You can't logically reason them out of it. That's why it's called mania remedies. They're in a mania state. The second one is stramonium, which is your fear mania. And that is people who've gone through a trauma because either they have gone through it or their parents have gone through it, or someone generationally down the line has gone through trauma. And it's expressing itself through this mania state of fear, where they just can't reason them out of the fear. They're like scared to drive their car in the rain, and there's no reasoning that it's safe at all. It's just going to be that way, and they're never going to drive their car in the rain unless you can pull them out of that mania state with stramonium. So number 3 is hyoscyamus. That's spelled funny, HYOSCYAMUS. Hyoscyamus is sexual mania. So that's people who have gone through trauma, and to survive that trauma, they use different sexual things. So being promiscuous, whatever it may be, pornography, whatever. So those people are hard to spot, because they're not going to tell you that. Okay, but if I see somebody that, if it's a man and they're kind of looking me up and down, I'll put that in there, because there's something there that's drawing them towards a woman's figure or whatever. Now, if it's a woman, it's harder for me to spot unless they tell me something like I have a strong sex drive. You know, they might somehow just throw that out there. I had one girl who just strong Christian girl, but she told me she had trouble being promiscuous in the past. Okay, I put that in hers and she needed it. Or if somebody had been like molested or raped as a child, I knew that their mind is going to have to survive that trauma somehow. And sometimes it's through sexual means. Number 4, mania remedies is Veratrum album. Veratrum. Now, Veratrum is religious mania. Now, you may think you can never be too religious, and here I am, a strong Christian. I you know, in a way you can't be, but what can happen is I've seen people, like there was a woman being abused by her husband and she couldn't get out of the situation. So what she did is would rationalize it in her own mind that God has me here for a reason to be with this man, and I'm going to save him. And I'm going to preach to him, and I'm going to play my Christian music. And so, and she would, you know, say God was speaking to her every few days, and he would tell her these different things. And she wore a big cross around her neck. And you can actually repertorize in synthesis. It's called religious affections, mind, religious affections aggravated or something. And that's always the one you put in when you see somebody is a little overly into thinking they're like here to save humanity. It's like a bit of a Messiah complex. And or I've had people just in my office come right out and start like preaching things to me, and they'll say, well, I listen to this and that, and they're like kind of almost street preacher type people. So it's just gone too far because that's how they're compensating for the trauma they've been through. The last mania remedy is belladonna. And that's headache mania. So that's where you see people, and it's usually like a one-sided headache, where you're seeing people come in and they've gone through different trauma in their life, and they're like, oh, I just have these headaches and these migraines all the time. I always throw in belladonna, and we usually test for those kind of people if they have, unless there's another big reason why they're having headaches. But that one will come up.
So something they have to work through? Like
Yeah, it's actually something they have to work through, going all the way through the potencies. Sometimes, I think I had one lady who she stayed there for like 4 or 5 months in belladonna before we finished it. So with the remedies, you're always kind of going up. And then sometimes once you get to that highest potency, you actually go back down again. Not always, but sometimes you do. So imagine it like you have a tree that's been planted there for 20 years and you got to get rid of it. Okay. So you're going to, you're going to kind of start to dig around that tree to get the roots of it. At first, you're going to cut down the branches and stuff. But when you have this stump that's been there, you got to kind of dig in different layers. So sometimes it's like you got to kind of take one, you're getting like the top roots out. Then the next month, you're getting down a little bit to the middle roots. And you got to just kind of go deeper and deeper. But then sometimes once you've gone as deep as you can go, you got to kind of pull near the top or kind of go near the, you just have a little bit left. So hitting that person like in a belladonna LM1000, it will miss it completely. So always check if the LM1000 isn't testing, but they're still needing belladonna, check your lower potencies. So lower potencies can be just as important as higher ones for people. So I used to think that, oh, when they get to the highest, they're just going to stay at that high potency forever. That's not necessarily the case. It can sometimes be they need lower ones, or if it's an acute case, let's say they've always needed nux vomica for stress and it was chronic for like 6 months. Well, then they have a really stressful month and they may need nux vomica to 1M because nux vomica is not hitting from the stress they've had their whole life. It is needed for the stress they just had this month. So always be kind of, thinking about the potency really does play a huge part in what's going on. Anybody have any questions about that case?
Especially on medications. How do you?
Oh yeah, getting people off medications. That's a good question. I let people really kind of, use that to their discretion, because I don't want also, thinking of being sued or something. I don't want somebody to say, she told me to get off these medications, and then I had a stroke, and they try to sue me for that. I say, hey, you need to talk to your doctor, whatever you need to do, but the goal is to get you off of everything. Now, I have a couple clients that are still on stuff because they're just too scared to get off it, or it's like a heart medication. They had a heart attack in the past. I'm just not going to mess with that because I don't want them to have a heart attack and say, it's my fault or something. But for the most part, I try to get them off, and just try to, like, some people will wean themselves off, which I kind of think most people like that better. So they'll say, okay, so I say, you know what, you could try maybe for 2 weeks, take your blood pressure medication and half it. So don't take a whole one, maybe do a half. And then if you feel pretty good after a couple of weeks, like, don't just give it 2 days and then say, oh, I don't feel good, I'm going to go back on. Give it a good week or so. If you still feel okay, then maybe that next week, do it every other day. So people like little baby steps. So baby step them out of those medications. Now, some people will try and they'll try to get off. And then all of a sudden it's like, no, they can't handle it. Okay, that's fine. Go back on for a little while. We try again the next month. So you're always just kind of pushing, but keeping in mind the needs that they're having. So if they're on anxiety meds and they're having a really stressful month coming up with holidays or whatever, we're not going to try it this month. We're going to try it in January or whatever, when things have calmed down for you. So always keeping in mind their situation, at the same time, just trying to, like, push a little bit every time. And I'll write down on their file meds, so I know, okay, they're on these different, 3 or 4 meds. So the next month I'm like, okay, what do you want now? Have you been able to cut back, pull back? Yeah, actually, I'm off of this cholesterol medication. Great. Just really celebrate with them. That's awesome. That's a big step, and you're still doing fine. Your cholesterol's fine. So that's awesome. And the next month, try to just kind of those little goals, or even if it's not medication, it may be somebody's diet is really bad. I had this one guy came in and he had cookies for breakfast. He had ice cream and a ham sandwich for lunch, and he had pizza and hot dogs for dinner. That was his whole diet. And he wondered why he needed caffeine and an energy patch to survive the day. And I'm like, fruits and vegetables here. This is a plan. You follow this plan. But the next month he came in only being able to put grapes into his diet. And, oh, I only could eat grapes for breakfast now. But if he thinks that's great progress, I don't. But he thought it was. He's 65 years old. He's been doing it that way his whole life. So, okay, this is how slow we're going to go. Great. That's great. Next month, what are we going to do? So sometimes they'll write in their files goals, and I'll even write it on their envelope I send them home with. Now, I don't do that for everybody, because a lot of people, they know what to do, but some people don't. So I write it on their, goal to cut your medication in half. The goal is, if that's what they want to do, I'll let it be their idea. Goal to eat more fruit at breakfast. Goal to get a whole food multivitamin. Goal to sleep 7 hours a night and shut off your phone before you go to bed. So sometimes there's like these different things. You're kind of just teaching people sometimes how to live well. It's not always just homeopathy only. You're bringing in so many other things. You're trying to get them off coffee. I'm not a fan of caffeine. No vaccines, obviously. Trying to get them, less stressed. Trying to get maybe if they're having, like, they're always testing for stress remedies, get them on an adrenal support, supplement, or a whole food B complex. I try to tell people, remember, it took you a while to get this way. So think of, like, each year you've had this illness. Think of that as 1 month per year. So if you've had, PCOS for 10 years, then give me 10 months to work it out with you. And sometimes in those transitions for people, like if you're trying to get them off, like I had a guy, he takes 2 of those 5-hour energies every day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And I'm like, holy cow, and he's been doing that for like 10 years. So his adrenals, his hormone system is just shot. But this month I actually tried a remedy called caffeine, okay? Because I was like, that might actually work and help to heal from the caffeine that he's been on for 10 years. And he was up for it. He's like, I got some time off coming up. And I'm like, this is gonna be hard. We're gonna try to get you. I'm like, this month, try to get off of one of those. Let's just get you on only one of 5 more energy drinks per day. And then maybe in December, try to get off all of it. He knew me, and he knew his allergies were better, his reflux. We've worked on a bunch of stuff, but that was his like last thing to hang on to that he didn't want to get rid of. And so I said, what we're going to do is in that transition time from getting you from 2 to 1, I want you to just fill your body with nutrients. So stop breaking it down with this caffeine that makes you feel good for a few hours and then wears you down so you're tired all the time. Let's get you on this. So I had him order Dr. Mercola, a whole food multivitamin, which I love. And you take like 6 capsules per day. And I don't recommend that for everybody because not everybody needs that much, but he did. So it's a little more expensive, but it's like all whole food. So you look at the ingredients, it's like apples and blueberries and broccoli and spirulina and all that. So in his case, I was like, we're going to get you on that, a week before you kind of get off of one of these. So we get you really built up, and I want you to eat, maybe take this meal replacement that has superfoods in it. So just get them just full of vitamins and nutrients before they transition off of the medication or off of something like caffeine like that, because you want them to have success. You want them to be able to get off of it and still be okay, even though it's going to be hard for a little while. And I also complement homeopathic practice with emotion code or EMDR. Some people think emotion code is too out there with the sway testing, so I'll have them do EMDR with a professional counselor or do chiropractic. Now I'll tell people there's a lot of like chiropractic isn't just pain management, it's actually overall health. So it's kind of like, I have clients that will go to the chiropractor when their kid has a fever. And I always thought, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? They're not in pain, right? Their neck isn't out, their back isn't out. Why would you send them to the chiropractor? They said, well, when you do that, they actually get better a lot faster. Why? Because all the blood is flowing through the whole circulatory system to where it needs to be. So let's say it was a little bit blocked in their back where their stomach is, they're having a flu. Well, once you adjust the spine that connects to that spot in the stomach, that stomach is going to work a lot better to kill that virus. So in the same way, when people are chiropractically in line and all the blood is flowing to every organ it needs to be flowing to, they will heal a lot faster too. So I do some people, if I'm feeling like something's not working or we need to go faster, I'll have them do chiropractic. It's always good.
What does EMDR stand for?
EMDR stands for electromagnetic, I can't remember.
Is that the eye movement? Is that the eye movement you're talking
Yes,
about?
that's right. The
And
eye, it is eye movement.
Yeah.
But it's something about both sides of the brain being like, people use the tapping or they use the eyes or they use the little things that you hold on to. So it stimulates both sides of the brain to let go of trauma in the physical body. So, and a lot of counselors will even use it now. There's a lot of people locally here, I know probably like 7 or 8 like therapists and counselors that will use EMDR. Even at Laterno University, which is a Christian university here, they have people certified in it. So it's really, it's just a good compliment. And funny enough, I actually had a girl come in the other day where she had a ton of trauma, and I was like excited to dig into emotion code with her, but she does EMDR every other week with her counselor. And so when she came in, she literally had nothing to release. And that never happens with somebody who's like coming in, having all these problems in her past. I'm like thinking, we're going to do a lot. And I'm like, do we have any trapped emotions? No. I'm like, that's strange. Okay. Do you have any heart walls? No. Do you have any body walls? No. Because she had already released it all in the EMDR therapy. So for me, it's kind of like either one is good, but I think emotion code, it's cheaper, it's faster, and it's easier. You don't have to talk about your problems with like a therapist. Okay, so we got the last few minutes here. I have one more case to share with you guys, unless you have other questions. Okay, so this last one was not a successful case. Her name was Madge, and she's a sweet old lady. I think she was about 70 years old and came in with really bad allergies. She had no energy, fibromyalgia all her life, psoriatic arthritis, and she had 2 heart attacks. She was on 7 different medications. So she was on a heart medication, a blood pressure medication, cholesterol, 5 arthritis medications. And she even had arthritis as a child. And I put here my observation, possible platina and phosphorus personality, because she seemed very like outgoing and told a lot of stories, and kind of sometimes platina looks like to me somebody who might brag a little bit. Not brag, but sometimes they like to, well, yeah, it can be kind of bragging, but like telling about certain things, like they like attention. And she had a lot of flatulence, so a lot of gas, and greasy food made it worse, and sleeping trouble. So you see here, her file wasn't too extensive, even though she had a lot of different problems. This is their first visit. So I kind of got the gist of it. You can see there. So what I'm thinking is, okay, what remedies are going to give me the biggest bang for my buck? Well, allergies, I already knew Serenum. That's always the one, and it's also gut. So I thought, gosh, if she's having like arthritis, but arthritis as a child made me think either metals related or aurum metallicum. So aurum metallicum is always really good for any kind of aches and pains. That's like a chronic issue, and especially when they're young. If they come in young having arthritis, it's aurum metallicum every time. And they usually have heart issues. So she had 2 heart attacks. So I knew that was going to be a good fit. And no energy, fibromyalgia. Well, I'm like, okay, the hard thing is when somebody's on 7 different medications, some of these things like the flatulence, sleeping trouble might be related to her medications. So you don't really want to treat those things. I focus on stuff that she's had the longest. So if she's had allergies since she was a kid, you're going to treat your allergies. She's had, arthritis since she was a kid, you're going to treat those. But if it's like, yeah, the past 5 years, I just can't fall asleep, I'm not going to spend any time looking that up. If she's talking about cholesterol is bad, I don't even look that up. Just kind of write it down, but it's not really there for me as part of my focus. Blood pressure, I'm not going to look up blood pressure remedies for her case. Flatulence, to me, that was related to the Serenum, which is gut. And Serenum also works on the heart. So I knew like Serenum and aurum and detoxing her is going to be where we're going to really hit her the hardest. And we're going to see the most progress with her that way. So she ended up, I did uranium 30C. She tested for aurum metallicum, like I thought, in a 200C. We did Serenum in a 30C. Now be careful with Serenum because that's one, you can't always do it in a 30C. Sometimes people need that lower. If they have really bad allergies, I'll test a 12C or a 6C in Serenum. So I'll muscle test them on a 30C, they may want it. Then all of a sudden I give them a 12C and they want that, and then they drop the 30. So if you go too high, you might miss it. Then we did polymetals in a 30C. And then I knew I was going to try and go up, even though she's kind of, even though she has a lot going on, I actually did want to go up in potency a little bit with her because even though she had all this stuff, she wasn't sick very much. So when I see somebody that like, I say, were you sick a lot as a child? Or no, not really. I hardly ever get sick. Okay. Well, that shows she has somewhat of a good immune system. So what I did is you can see in the first, I kind of wrote it in here. Number 1, I wrote those first remedies that I gave her in the appointment. Then the first bag that I gave her, it says dose number 1, day 8, 8 or whatever, 8 days from that day. I gave those exact same 3 again, except for the uranium. I didn't give that. So she's getting her aurum metallicum, Serenum metals 8 days later after the appointment. Then the next week I went up. So I did aurum metallicum 1M. So I just went up a step in Orem, kind of small steps. So I knew since she might have tested for the 200C, I didn't want to go up to like a 10M. I just went up a very small step. Serenum, I went up to LM5, which is like a, sorry if it's confusing, it's like a 1M or a 200C. It's in between those. And then I actually gave her Platina because she did test for that. And Platina, I don't really think of as like a physical. I don't really know of any physical symptoms for Platina. It just is, in a funny way, it helped me because she talked a lot. The whole appointment was her talking and telling stories. It sounds funny, but I didn't, I was like, well, maybe she'll talk less time. Next time I'll give her Platina. It sounds funny, but it's going to be good for her because it's an itch in the brain to talk about yourself that person might have. And it doesn't need to be somebody super arrogant, or it can just be a person who's a storyteller, which is totally fine. But anyway, I gave it to her. I knew that was probably one of her constitutional. So that's what we worked on the first month. Then she came in the next month and she was having hot flashes. Okay, so the picture is changing here. The pain, the fibromyalgia has been the same, didn't change at all. The allergies were the same, so that didn't change. Energy was better though. So whenever you see like other stuff isn't that much better, but her energy was better. So for me, as long as I can tick off one box, hopefully more than one, to me, we focus, hey, that's good, we're making progress. And then she also felt things as she went through it. So she was like telling me how she kind of felt sick for a couple days. She was really tired after the detoxes. She was having some like bloating and gas stuff was worse after a couple days. Oh yeah, and the sleeping was a bit better. So I got 2 out of 5 on that one that we saw improvement. And now we added a new symptom, hot flashes. So, and she also had cut back on her medicine. So now she was only on 6 medications instead of 7. So let's celebrate that. She's doing great. She's trying, and I want to see people just really just trying.
Can I ask why you didn't do anything with hypertension or look at the hypertension?
Yeah, Rebecca asked, why didn't I do anything with the high blood pressure? Because in my opinion, when you have a lot of different things wrong in the body, you're going to have swelling. Swelling causes high blood pressure. So I really rarely address high blood pressure unless it's like their only thing, because once you get rid of everything, all the symptoms and the arthritis dies down, the swelling in the, all the joints and stuff dies down, they're sleeping better, the allergies are better, not having swelling up here in the head, the blood pressure will normalize. So I don't usually deal with that. So I knew we kind of had to deal with, I tested her on the same remedies we did the last month, and Serenum came up again, we went up higher, or Metallicum came up again, because I knew those symptoms hadn't changed. So I knew we were probably still in that remedy. So when you see people like, or if it gets worse, if people say, yeah, they got better for a few days and then it got worse again, something like that, I know we're still in there. We're just like not done with that remedy yet. So I knew she needed that. We went higher. Phosphorus came into play this time, which I had written at the very beginning in my little notes. She seems like a phosphorus or a platina to me. And phosphorus, I think, was going to hit on her hot flashes, on her sleep. And then platina she needed again. So we went up in those. So those were like the 4 that we worked on that month for her. Then we tried doing emotion code that month. I kind of talked to her about that, and we went through that. Then on month 3, the hot flashes were better. Arthritis pain was way worse. Okay, so it went from being like on 0 to 10 pain being like a 7 to like now a 9 or a 10. So that's a good sign to me still though, because we're seeing a change. And allergies were way better. So we're seeing just shifting in different things. Energy was still really good, even better. She was sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night. And then she said something, she might feel like she has gallbladder stuff going on. She felt like some pain in that area. Now she was down to only 4 medications. So we went from starting out with 7 to 6, now to 4. And I also wrote in there to check with a more natural doctor to possibly get her on some like different herbs and vitamins. Like a naturopath, which is also a good addition to bring in for people. So she needed Cerinum again for like the gut, heart, allergies, even higher, or Metallicum again, phosphorus even higher. And I threw in, there's a remedy called gallbladder, and she did test for that. So it was like pain in her upper right-hand side. And so she did test for gallbladder remedy. Now that is in the book that I use. You're not going to find that remedy in really at Helios or Washington Homeopathic. That's one that I had to make with my machine. Then she tested for kelp carb, which kelp carb is a really good allergy remedy. So I knew she needed that. She had really bad teeth too. I remember seeing that. Kelp carb, all your kelps are really good for teeth. Then she needed a polybowel nosode and metals again. So like just working on the gut. And then we did a motion code again for her. And also she's a smoker. So you have to make sure they're not going to be smoking menthol cigarettes. So like then we had the next month, I think we went on a few more months for her. And then she had something else came up, and she kind of just, I don't know if she wasn't seeing the progress, but anyway, she stopped coming. So now it's been like four or 5 months. She goes to my church, and she ended up in the very end only having still some arthritis, but it was only during a storm. So it was way better in her day-to-day. But then she went to the doctor again, and they put her on aspirin, a daily aspirin, and a diuretic. And she had something come up with her brother, some accident, so she ended up being in a wheelchair, which then hurt her. And working on her weight, she was like probably over 300 pounds. And trying to work on, her diet and stuff. So just certain things in life kind of got in the way. And I don't know if she might end up coming back, and she didn't seem like totally opposed to it. But that shows you like a complicated case that there's a lot of different things going on. A lot of different medications to work through, but you're just going to try your best to like check a couple boxes that month with them. And a lot of times those things will have different side effects, and always keep reminding them they're on all these different medications. So certain symptoms may not change because of those medications. Certain people don't want to get off of their medications. Well, that's a problem. Also, you're just trying to kind of push people every month a little bit more. At the same time, keep them pulling in, by keep them coming back and see the long-term kind of vision of everything. And sometimes people will leave and they'll tell you, oh, I can't make it this month, or something came up. And then I've had quite a few people that will come back though. Like they will realize I'm way better, or this symptom you fixed. And so 2 years later, I'm going to come back and see you again. And some people you'll just never see again. And that's okay too. And I learned to not take it so personally. It was hard at first when I had people not come back. I'd be like, what did I do wrong? But people make their own choices. If you think about it, I went to different chiropractors or different naturopaths in the past that I liked them. They did a pretty good job. I just didn't feel like it was working for me at the moment, and I moved on. So people do the same thing. And so anyways, that's pretty much most of what I have for today to share with you guys. Any other questions?
Is there a reason why you go to such high dosing? Like I've listened to other people and they stay more towards the lower potencies.
Mm-hmm.
And you go like high
Really
fast, so I was wondering about that.
Yeah. I just want to go as fast as the body's able to go. So if that person is really testing for it, I muscle test an LM1000 and their body's like, their arm is strong as a, metal. It's really strong. And then I offer them LM200, 30C, other potencies, their body just falls. Like give them back the LM1000 and it's really strong. To me, that's what their body needs. It's kind of like you can you can rip off a Band-Aid really, really slowly and it will be more painful, or you can just rip it off. And so if the body is able to rip that Band-Aid off, pull that tree out, whatever, really quickly, whatever it is in that person's life, then I would rather do it that way personally.
Okay.
Than do really slowly to heal something. So that's kind of how I keep that in mind with my patients. I want to get people in and out of the door as quickly as possible. I have 90 other people on a waiting list. So I don't have time to just peeling off slowly every little Band-Aid that they have. I want to just get it done with. And they do too. So that's why most of them will come back.
Like when we work through a case, about how many remedies do you see people go through? Like if it's a complicated case,
Yeah,
obviously this one's taking me like 3 years.
yeah.
If it was a less complicated case, like about how many remedies?
How many remedies? Like if it's been a 6-month case, you know, it can be like in some of these here that you're seeing the same remedies every month. So some of those constitutional ones you're going to see repeating. So maybe if it was a 6-month case, I'd say you might see them work through 10 to 12 remedies, different ones. Some of them are the same, like I said, working through, and some of them you might only need for a couple months. Like I think Madge, this lady here, she only needed Platina for 2 months, but she needed like vaccine detox every month and Serenum every month. So you're kind of just bringing in whatever the symptom picture shows you, that's what you're looking at.
Do you think there is a chronic? Have you ever sent, like the case is done, but then you get sent home with a chronic? Like this is your remedy?
This is your remedy to like take.
Just curious.
People will sometimes ask me, what's my constitutional remedy, if they know enough about it. And so I will have some people, like especially worn down moms, will keep sepia in their closet, you know, because they know that every once in a while they always need that, or they keep like I'll have them take a Highlands nerve tonic for stress every once in a while. So but yeah, most of the time people they'll come back if they need something. So I'll have people like these 2 women here, like Kim never finished, she hasn't finished yet. Madge kind of should be coming back, but she's not, it's her choice. But you know, people will, let's say they get rid of their allergies, we get rid of them after 6 months, and then all of a sudden for like 3 months they don't have allergies and they come back again. Then just come back in and we test you for those. Or sometimes if the person knows enough, I might say, go get some Serenum and take it in this potency. That might help you, you know. But most of the time they need to come back in and we need to kind of go through it all again.
Have you ever worked specifically on milk allergies? Like, okay, let's get you over milk allergies, and it's been successful?
Oh yeah, I work with that a lot.
And you do go ahead.
There's actually on my website, and I don't know if Marissa heard this, but on my website, I have a top chronic remedies section now. And there is a piece on there for food allergies. And there is one that's specifically dairy.
Okay.
So it's a Thusa. But yeah, I've seen a lot of different food allergies go away.
Okay.
Like permanently.
And it's more through a detoxification of the body versus specifically, there's an approach that you can use, like test to see, okay, are you allergic to casein within the milk? They do a whole battery of tests. It's very intense.
Yeah.
And then they'll do that tapping down the chakras, and then go eat some ice cream, come back, they do it again. And then somebody can be cleared for a while. I forget what it's called. It's AAI or something like that.
Yeah.
It's really expensive. It's like 20 grand to learn it, but
Okay.
you know, and have everything. But it kind of sounds like if you're doing that already, there's a lot of ways to skin the same, you know, a lot of ways to skin a cat, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, and we don't know if that way might, you know, not last. I don't know, but
It didn't last.
like forever.
It was for my cousin. It didn't last.
So that's what we're looking for. I want to get them to not be as sensitive like forever.
Okay.
So that's what we're working towards here with the detoxing and the gut healing remedies. Let's get them to not ever respond. Not that like dairy is the best thing in the world to eat, but most people should be able to have a little piece, piece of cheese without going crazy, their gut going crazy and chronic diarrhea for days and stuff like that.
Okay.
So our goal is, through the remedies to help get them in their gut in a much better place permanently. Anybody else? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I recorded and recording this today. Some of you know, I will send it out. Well, does anybody, if you want, like I know Jay said she wants me to send her the recording. If you want the recording, you can have it for free. But the people who, I'm going to be kind of selling it to some people who weren't able to come today. So they will pay the same $25. And Tracy, you paid 35, so I'm going to actually owe you 10. So it's only 25 this time. Because probably you're paying from what we paid last time. And so I'm going to sell this recording to everybody else for 25. But if you want a copy of it, just let me know and I can get that to you. I can send it to you. It'll be a YouTube link in a private group. So, all right.
Can we get an example of like some notes that you take, just so like I can see it a little bit on your screen, but it's like,
Yeah, I'll take a picture.
okay.
I'll take a few picture of my notes and I'll send that to you guys as well as the waiver.
Oh, thank you.
And then check out the website if you haven't seen that yet with all the top chronic remedies. Okay, well, good to talk with you ladies. And I'll send you the time for next month, another time. It might be December, it might be January. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'll send you something. And if you haven't paid yet, do $25. You can do Venmo, PayPal are the best ways.
So you're
Thank
just
you.
planning on doing this once a month?
Yeah.
Because at one point you said twice a month, but I wasn't
Yeah,
sure.
I think I can only handle it once a month because I have to book it out and it just takes time. But and then let me know if you have any other questions or certain cases that you're thinking like, oh, I'd really love to see what she does with an anxiety case or with different issues. Then let me know and I can try to pull those kind of cases to go over.
Would you consider like taking a person and having them, like come and like almost like a clinical?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I thought about that.
watch you,
Yeah.
go through it.
Hi, Tammy. Yeah, we could possibly do that.
Okay. All right.
All right, you ladies, take care.
Thank you.
Be in touch.
Thank you.
No problem. Bye.